Welcome to the podcast that buffs your Hearthstone game. This is Velen's Chosen.
Not all who wander are lost.
Greetings, visionaries, and welcome to Velen's Chosen. We are back, and whether you're a competitive player, an arena specialist, as boy howdy if you're an arena specialist today, a deck building visionary, or just like having a bit of fun, we can help you buff your game and achieve those myriad of Hearthstone goals. I am Grant Gould, your host numero uno that you always hear every day or every time we have a show. But joining me across the North American continent is your favorite Canadian and still my favorite Canadian, Eve Martin. How you doing tonight, Eve?
I'm good. Sorry.
Is that a pause for dramatic effect?
Yeah, let's call it that. That's
Dramatic
exactly
effect.
what it was. I wasn't trying to get Twitch up and out of the way at the same time as you were asking me a question. I am on. We're good to go.
Is your health improving?
Yes. Okay. So listeners might not know, but I had a rough week. I had to come home from work, climb into bed, go to sleep, get up to work, come home from work, climb into bed, go to sleep, get up to work kind of week. So apologies for not kind of getting together and having either a lore episode or a me and Grant episode. But we are here and we're going to make this one a good one. So thanks for the wait. It's going to be worth it.
Yeah, we've had this show on the books for a couple weeks now, and joining us from across the Pacific Ocean, I'm not going to say Rob May, even though he's in the same general time zone as him. We have joining us very special guests tonight, fellow podcaster and host of Arena Sensei, our good buddy StevenSensei. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you very much. Happy to be here.
Yeah, man, I'm glad to have you. So we're going to get to know you real quick before we start getting into some of the nitty-gritty stuff that we wanted to talk about tonight. Why don't you tell us a little bit about how you kind of got into Hearthstone, and then if you want to elaborate how you got into games, video games, board games, like what your background is there.
Okay, well, Hearthstone came about a few years ago. I was listening to a general PC gaming podcast. One of the hosts mentioned it, and I went, "Oh, I think I've heard about that. Oh, it's on the phone. I have time on the train. I'll download it and give it a try." And it scratched an itch that I forgot that I had, and I think I've played literally every day since. And that would have been just before the release of Mean Streets.
Okay, so did you play any other card games-ish that like Magic or Pokemon or anything like that before Hearthstone?
A very, very long time ago, I played a card game called Jihad, which was later renamed to be Vampire the Masquerade, which was a collectible card game based in the world of darkness, around the same time that Magic was popular. So yeah, I played that a little bit. Video gaming history goes way back. I'm one of the old people around here, I think. So I grew up playing like an Atari 2600 with, one button and a joystick. Had a Nintendo in elementary school, fell off for a few years, came back many years later as a PlayStation player, and then of course PC off and on throughout. And that's pretty much, if I'm not playing Hearthstone, I might be playing something in Steam, but usually I look at all the games I have to play, and I'll launch Hearthstone.
It's nice I have such a large collection. I'll just play Hearthstone.
Yeah.
Were you one of those kids where like your mom and dad bought you an NES, and then when the Super NES came out, they're like, no, you already have a Nintendo, you don't get another one?
Oh, absolutely. I wanted one. I remember renting one from like a video rental store, and I was so amazed at like how cool it was. And I tried to save my like allowance and my money, and it never happened.
Yeah, that was a tough sell for me. I never had a Super Nintendo because my dad kind of reasoned the way. I just said, like, you already have a Nintendo. You don't need another one. You have all these games. Why do you want another one? It's not that different, you know. But Dad, it's so much more colorful and there's so much you can do. No, there's not. He couldn't or wouldn't see it. I don't know. But
I think it was
listeners,
also
if you had
kind
that
of
experience,
the
let us know.
idea of like, I'm not going to get pulled into this. They're always going to bring out a new console in another couple of years, and then they're going to want you to buy those ones, and then all the games go with that. And like, that was kind of my family's idea. It was like, nope, this is good. You've got this. This will do you. We're not going to get tricked into buying more and more and more.
I remember when the Sega Genesis came out, it was so different and high powered. I mean, Sonic moved so fast on the screen, you know. And I remember like begging my father, please, Dad, what do I have to do to earn this? What do I have to do? And he just wouldn't hear it. He'd like, in his mind was like, no, you don't need another gaming system. So that's when you start making up excuses to go to your friend's house, you know? Like Johnny down the road has it, and it's like, I don't really know
They're
him
the most
very well.
popular kid in class now, the one who's got the
Yeah.
new console. Everyone
Suddenly I
wants
have a
go
reason to
over
be
and
at your
play at
house.
their Yeah.
So,
Sounds familiar.
what about Hearthstone just really appeals to you? You said it scratches an itch kind of you didn't know you had, but like, there's a lot of digital card games out kind of in the space right now. What about Hearthstone kind of keeps you coming back? It's been around 5 years now.
When I think about it, the mechanics are fairly straightforward. They're easy to understand, but I think that the production value Blizzard brings to the game, the graphics, the sound, the voiceover, it feels right. None of it feels kind of forced or janky. It just all kind of works together, and I've always appreciated that as a package.
I agree with you. I think the people really underestimate the UI in Hearthstone, the layout, the ease of form, and the thing that I hadn't thought about until I played Eternal on the phone, the size of the text, the size of how stuff appears to you. Because one of the reasons I don't play Hearthstone is because I think I need a different prescription, but I don't like squinting and trying to figure out what a card is and like looking at the details because it's too small for me. And that's the thing that quite literally is a barrier for me to want to keep playing. I don't think the game's bad, but I don't like that stress of trying to, what am I looking at? What is that? And trying to figure out what it is. And then I come back to Hearthstone. Everything's a little bit bigger, a little bit bolder, a little cleaner. You're right. The audio, visual aspects of it, it doesn't feel contrived at all. It doesn't feel forced. It doesn't feel like it's copying anything. It feels like it's just kind of, it is what it is.
It's always fascinating to me to see how people are drawn into Hearthstone who had nothing to do with World of Warcraft. Because that was kind of my gateway into it. And then a lot of people that I knew and talked to about it, like that was their gateway into it. So I'm fascinated by the people who like had no background in Blizzard games or World of Warcraft and wanted to play this game. So when they saw it, it was like with completely fresh eyes. It wasn't like, oh, that's Thrall. That's Jaina. That's, you know, and like this familiarity and this nostalgia and this is super cool seeing our game in a different way, but just like to completely new eyes and what that would be like and what the game would appear to somebody who's just seeing all of this with no context, basically, these characters in the story and everything.
Yeah, that was definitely the case for me. My Blizzard history, I remember playing The Lost Vikings on a PC in early high school. And I had a shareware floppy disk of Warcraft Orcs versus Humans. So I mean, way back. I never played because of where I lived in America at the time. I never got the chance to play WoW because I didn't have the internet connection to support it. So, you know, for me coming to it was like, okay, new characters, and then kind of seeing that, okay, there's a little bit of lore and there seems to be some world built around this. I don't have the time to really get into the World of Warcraft thing. And then along came Lore Master Eve and her lore segments, which you have been fascinating, have actually made my Hearthstone experience better. Knowing a little bit of that, even though some of it's more in depth than I need to know, I have a greater appreciation. And when I hear things like, oh, wait a minute, Sylvanas has a sister? What? I need to know more about this. Sisters, yes.
Yeah. I was a Warcraft 3 player. I I actually have played very limited World of Warcraft. So Warcraft 3 was where my gate. So I got a lot of like the fundamental history, Arthas and Sylvanas and things like that. And that was always really cool. But like before and after that kind of era or like that storyline, I was just kind of ignorant. So I knew who Thrall was, I knew who Jaina was and whatnot. But like somehow like some of the more off the beaten path, like dungeon bosses and raid bosses and stuff, and characters that were found within there. That stuff was all revelatory to me. And again, I think Eve has helped us a lot in that department, appreciating the game in a more holistic sense.
Well, but I think that's so cool that the strength of the design stood on its own without any knowledge of the characters. And I think that's probably why they stepped away from Hearthstone Heroes of Warcraft and just went with Hearthstone. Because it was like, there's a lot of people who like this game who have never played World of Warcraft. Like millions of people who play this game that just like picked it up and played it because it was a well-made game. And so, I don't know, yeah, that's really cool to me that the art and the sounds and the graphics and everything that they made just are like fun and interesting to play without knowing all this other backstory stuff about all the characters.
Yeah. I really like the whimsy. I like how they kept it. I always thought it was really funny when playing Warcraft 3, if you just kept clicking on the peon or the dryads and you just kept clicking them, and they would say different funny things. And I just was like, and I would do that with every single character. You find a Murloc, and how many different Murloc sounds can I make? And what's Thrall going to say if I click him 20 times? Maybe there's like an Easter egg in there.
They get angry eventually and tell you to leave them alone.
Yeah, stop touching me.
Yeah, exactly.
And I always just thought that was funny that they would, I mean, as a kid thinking, it's funny that the game designers kind of knew that people would just kind of impulsively click something. And like, so they have a response. So it's almost like the computer is reacting to your impulse. So like, hey, stop being the person you're being right now. Just play the game the normal way, like regular people,
But that's why the clickables on the Hearthstone board, they know while you're sitting there waiting for your turn, you're just like tap, tap, tap.
Mousing
tap,
around.
Tap, tap, tap.
Yeah, one of the old boards where you can launch the rocket ship, I have to click on the screw and have it go back into the board. If I don't do that, there's something not right about it. It's like a little bit of OCD of like, I have to put the screw back in the board.
You can't just leave it laying there. Like, who does that? What person plays that entire board with leaving that screw there? You can't.
I've been told that every single person has a mild amount of OCD in them somewhere. We just never know what it is. It is funny when it comes out to be the one thing on the game board that you have to fix every time you get on it. Genius here. Good job, Blizzard. So, Steven, I guess the follow-up question is, you're kind of, you make a podcast about Arena. What drew you to the Arena format within Hearthstone, and what is it that do you like about it so much that you even decided to create content regarding it?
Honestly, I started creating content about it because I was bad at it. I spent a solid year doing a data analysis project within Hearthstone where I min-maxed every single quest. I did not spend any gold. I did not enter the arena unless I got a free ticket to see, as kind of like a free-to-play player, how much gold could you generate? What did that mean over the course of a year of expansions? And that was fascinating, but it also meant that I had a full year where I didn't play Arena at all. I think I had maybe 2 runs. And in that time, I hit Legend in both Wild and Standard. I'd completed most of the Golden Heroes. I'd been playing an insane amount of this game. And then I went to go play the Arena, and I was like, wow, this is a completely different game. It's played differently. It's the same structure. It's the same idea of you put minions on the board, you hit people in the face, but it's kind of a very different format. And I realized that I was missing a portion of the game because I hadn't been playing it. Kind of like how you feel and I feel about Wild. Not playing Wild, there's a whole entire part of the game that's there to be enjoyed that's very similar to Standard. It's just a little different. And it was the same for Arena.
I'm curious to know what your kind of end result was of that, of going free to play and playing a lot of games and just using gold. Were you able to find that it was hard to get an entire collection, or easy, or?
I found that if you min-maxed your quests, so if you re-rolled your daily quests, so right now any of them that are 50 gold, you re-roll and try and get something that's higher, and you save your gold completely through expansion to expansion, you can generally, if you play a lot, get around 120 packs just off of gold that you earn in game, which will get you about 80% of the cards in any given set. And then, of course, dust and things like that. Yeah, it was an interesting project that came out through a conversation I had with Ridiculous Hat one day, and said, okay, for the next year, I'm going to do this, and let's see if these changes that they had really recently made about kind of no duplicate legendaries and things like that, is it even possible, coming as a late comer to this game, to be free and play and be able to build a collection and be competitive?
Did you find it at any point like limiting or frustrating and just like, I just want to buy a bunch of packs?
No, because I wasn't completely free to play. I was tracking everything that was free to play, but I am still a dirty pay to win player. So I was still getting the pre-order, but in all of the data I tracked, I didn't track any of the packs that I got from a pre-order or that I bought with gold or money outside of what I was able to earn. So it was, expansion time would come, I'd go, okay, I have this much gold. It's 122 packs this time. And I would go ahead and buy those with gold, open the 122 packs, see how much dust I got, go through that. What cards was I missing? Using things like the Hearthstone collection, where it was able to show you how many cards you were missing from each set. So, I mean, it's an Excel file that has 15 different sheets in it right now, I think.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I'll send you a copy after the show.
Yeah, I'd like to kind of see
Moment of
that.
silence
I've never.
for Hearthstone.
Yes.
Yeah, moment of silence.
Yes.
Little news tip: Hearthstone, we salute you. Thank you for your work and your dedication to the Hearthstone community. We will miss you.
But
in case you didn't know,
source of
guys.
news, and just like that's where I went immediately first. They had like everything was set out so nicely and easy to parse and easy to like read and find, and like, well done, Hearthstone.
But apparently the people involved in the development and maintenance of it have moved on, and they're now running a site that's out of .cards. And it's basically Hearthstone being restarted as a new service.
Okay.
Are they getting out from underneath being with Cursed? Is that what that is? Or really affiliated, or what?
My understanding from what I read in the Reddit thread that was posted, Curse is shutting down this and many of the other community sites that they had control of. And the people that were involved with Hearthstone have moved over and kind of started their own site separate from them. But it's basically going to be what they had before. So that's the new thing that's starting. Yeah.
I'll have to check it out, because that was
Same
like
guys, different
the
name.
first. Yeah. I hope everything is kind of like kept.
Well, my understanding is Hearthstone as it is will be kept as an archive, and it won't be going away, but you won't be able to upload or add anything new, and it won't be maintained other than as an archive.
It'll be a bit of
Right.
history.
Yeah.
Yeah, I read that. So no more contests from them, at least for a little while, for card design and otherwise.
Well,
But
we'll
you know
have to
what? I
check in
mean-
and see where they go and how that turns out, because there's a lot of great writers that I would love to follow and find out what they're doing now.
You know, there's an old saying, it's like you don't miss the water till the well runs dry. And, you know, those kinds of services, like we just very impulsively, we just go there. Just go there. You're looking, I want to go to Hearthstone. Let's look at the news. You don't think about that there's a team of people that devote a tremendous amount of time to putting that stuff up. So, you know, if you know those guys, you know how to get in contact with the team, send them thank you. You know, it's nice to hear that stuff if you're in the content creation world, whether it's a website or a podcast or heck, game developers, you know, those kind of people. So I guess public service announcement over. So back to Arena. So so I guess let's jump into it a little bit, Steven, because you're in Arena. How long have you really been playing seriously for Arena? Since you kind of
I've been playing it
your experiment
more seriously for almost a year now.
Okay. How many games would you say you play a week? Or, I mean, like, I should say runs, I should say, would probably be the better term.
Depends on the week and how busy I am, but I try and get in at least 2 to 3. If I have a week where I have more time, I try and get in more. But it's also depending, like, in the last couple weeks, honestly, I haven't played that many because, well, I had all this great single player content too.
Yeah.
So, but I try, like, this week, it was a push to make sure that I got some runs in because the meta has just changed. Schwal and I, who is my co-host for Arena Sensei, have to figure out what's going on with the meta and be able to kind of talk about that to the listeners of our podcast as well. Instead of just be like, hey, I know you came to listen about Arena stuff and we played single player all week. Yeah.
So I want to kind of talk about, how what's a good way to get into Arena. Kind of let's start sort of on the ground floor. Like if I'm a constructed player and I'm sort of in this boat. Like I've played a fair amount of Arena. I've even got a 12 key before. And I've been infinite a fair amount of times. I'm gonna go with the Lightforge term. I'm kind of like a soft infinite player.
Okay,
you know what I mean.
So around 5 wins average.
Yeah, that's kind of where I live in Arena. And if I'm doing good, if I have a good run, 8 is pretty. That's a good run for me. I've been up to I've been to 12, and I've kind of had a smattering of finishes higher than 8, but I'm a soft infinite player. But let's say I want to get into it. I've really focused on constructed. Like, what is a realistic expectation for kind of getting off the ground? Like, what do I have to do to kind of feel like I can at least break even, like 3 wins, 4 wins, things like that? Like,
well,
talk to us about that.
I'll have to ask you to define what do you mean by break even?
Well, like feel like I'm actually not just wasting my gold, because I think one of the things like I thought about a lot was especially. So I'm going to spend 150 gold or $2 depending to go play an Arena run, and I play it, and I don't know if I'm having a good time. I don't know if I'm doing well, and I feel like I'm going 1-3 or 2-3. What do I have to kind of do realistically to try and at least get to where I can win 3 games, 4 games every time I invest? That to sort of, because am I correct in saying that 4 wins you're just a little bit better than breaking even, and 3 wins is breaking even, right?
Three wins is a break even. Absolutely. I'm trying to think. At 2 wins, if you go 2 wins, 3 losses, you have a chance to break even depending on what you roll as your awards at the end. Or the worst case scenario is it's cost you a total of 10 gold for that run after you discount the price of the pack. And I think that's one of the misconceptions is people think, oh man, I went into Arena and it was 150 gold and I didn't do very well and I got a pack and I feel like I just wasted my money and my time.
Yeah.
The fact of the matter is Arena is designed in such a way that Blizzard does their best and they try to balance all classes to have a 50% win rate. They've never been able to do it. They've gotten close a few times, and that's over, millions and millions of games. When players draft, if you get a bad draft, if you don't build a great deck through what you pick, you're not going to hit that 50%.
Sure.
More than 50% of all runs end with 2 losses or less. That's just the hard fact of the matter. So if
do you mean 2 wins or less?
2 wins or less.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah. All Arena runs, 50% of them, more than 50% actually, end up having only 2 wins as their max. 2 wins, 3 losses. More than 50% go that way.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Which I don't think people realize. They And that's partially because of the influence of things like Twitch. We have some amazing streamers who are still streaming, some that have left the game. But you see them, oh yeah, 7 wins, 9 wins, I'm infinite, blah, blah, blah. And you're like, oh, well, it's not that hard. And then you play and you go, 0-3 or 1-3. And you're like, well,
Right.
I can't do this. This is hard. I'm wasting money because I'm not getting these huge rewards.
Sure. Yeah, that is something that I've noticed is sort of I'm going to call it a stigma, is you're watching more or less master players do it. The master players, like somebody who's just innately good at math, like, why aren't you good at math? Are you stupid? And it's not that that person is not capable of being good at math. They're just not naturally just savant-like at it. You know what I mean? And so we just have no understanding of what it takes to get there. It's like, well, I guess I can't get 7 wins as easy as you, and you make it look easy, so I must just not have the intellectual capacity or the ability to get there.
And
It's kind of
the
weird, that idea that you watch somebody play and be like, that looks easy, I can do that. Because that's not what I think. Like, I
Really?
used to watch Hafu play Arena and watch her talk through all of her choices and, whether to go for this or that and what she wanted to put in her deck to round it out. And I was like, holy crap, this woman, the way she thinks about things, the way she weighs this card versus that card in this situation is just a whole nother level that I am nowhere near that. But it's just cool to watch her work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Hafu was amazing to watch. She's no longer streaming or playing Arena, which I think is kind of a loss to the Arena community, but that's okay. We have some others that are still very worth watching. But when it comes to that kind of number of being that hard infinite, that 7 wins, the estimates are that less than 1% of all players in the Arena do that on a regular basis, and only about 9% of players do it even occasionally. It's very much like hitting legend. That it's a matter of luck, skill, time, patience, and investment. I mean, you look at someone like Hafu when she was streaming this all the time. She was playing Arena 8+ hours a day. It was a full-time job as a streamer.
Only part
that's what she
played.
did.
Like, yeah, didn't like standard at all.
Yeah, and she's an amazing player. She was great, both at that, and she's proven herself to be a great player in other ways as well. But those of us that look at her and go, wow, she's doing amazing things, I'd love to do that. You might be lucky if you get 8 hours of Arena in a month or two, and she was doing it daily. It's about skill and practice.
So what would you recommend for like a kind of a first step? So I am in that 50% bracket of where I'm hitting 1 and 2 wins every time I invest my resources. What's like the logical first step for me to take to get to where I can start getting up to, let's just say 3-4 wins
choose
a run?
mage.
Always choose mage.
Not always, but if you are mage, always choose Pyroblast.
You remember back in the day when mage was just like the best class, hands down? And
Yeah.
Yep,
warrior
mage and
was the
rogue.
worst.
Warrior
I
still
am
is the
curious,
worst.
I feel like they have actually managed to get towards a 50%. So there isn't, like, between Arena players, we all kind of know the worst class out there. Is there one?
Warrior right now is absolutely the
God.
worst class.
Still.
Yeah. Warrior is
It has
still
such a
absolutely
defensive hero power.
It's not that the hero power is defenseless, it's that it's useless. It's 2 mana and it doesn't really affect the way Arena plays.
Right. Yeah, that's kind of how it's always been and always will be, I guess, for Arena.
Yeah, currently with the new shift and the new meta that just started, it's looking like Paladin and Druid are actually going to be the top 2 classes right now, mostly with token and buff synergies. And of course, Warrior. Yeah, we don't talk about Warrior. It's just, yep, there's Warrior. You can play it if you want to, but you have 2 other options that are much more valid.
If you want to handicap yourself,
if you want to play it in hard mode, and expert
heroic
level,
version
you
of
try
Arena.
Warrior.
And for the longest
Heroic
time,
Arena.
it was Mage. in the last year, Warlock has been very dominant. It has the best hero power for
Because they can
Arena,
draw
being able
cards,
to draw
right.
cards.
That will always give you advantage. over the
Rogue
other.
was super powerful a month and a half ago. It's still really good, but it's not the top pick as of today. Changes
so that
will
probably
change
changes
that.
because of which expansions are available in Arena at any given time.
It changes because of that. It also changes when Blizzard makes either micro adjustments, which is their way of saying, okay, look at all of the classes and what the win rates look like. And well, Rogue is a little too high, so we are going to offer less of the best cards and a little more of the weaker cards. And it's just kind of fine tuning and dialing that in to find it. Or then there's also micro adjustments that they make and rebucketing of moving around cards and how they're offered to players.
Yeah.
Yeah, back in
the
the day, like Mage was the best because they had so much burn.
Mm-hmm.
Like they just had
And
clear
board clear.
spells, they had face spells. And when you can't plan out your deck
Yes.
and you can't guarantee that the other person's going to have board clear at all, Mage just kind of had the most options in the classic set with Flame Strike and Blizzard and
Yeah.
Cards that would be more likely to be offered.
yes, because they were
Based on
classic cards
rarity.
and classic cards were offered more often and basic cards which were offered more often. But now that's changed because of the buckets.
Yeah, the bucketing system is a really complex way that Blizzard goes ahead and decides how cards are offered, where it's no longer based on card rarity, but it's based on perceived power and algorithms they run, seeing how they work within the game kind of holistically. And then they kind of put them into buckets. And your best cards are in the top bucket, your worst cards are in the bottom bucket, and then you have kind of half buckets in between where you get the best cards in the worst bucket will also show up as the worst cards in the bucket above it to try and get
Right.
people to pick those worst cards slightly more. It's convoluted.
And
we
you
did
get
so-
kind of like this knowledge all the time. They tell you when they're moving buckets around and when they're moving.
They tell you when the Blizzard's good about letting us know when there will be a micro adjustment or when there will be a rebucketing of cards, which should happen in the next week to 2 weeks because we have a new meta that just started. And then hopefully they'll give us the data for what buckets they actually put things in. And this
Do you
all
play enough that you immediately feel it? Like after they've adjusted, are you like, oh, I can totally tell?
after a few runs, I can tell because I'll be like, well, wait a minute, I'm not seeing this card as much anymore. Or I would expect to see this card with these other cards and it's not here, kind of thing. And all of that, it goes back. That's the work too of, for the community anyways, that's Abdwakta and Merps over at the Light Forge and their tier list.
I was
Yeah,
going to ask
they're-
whether they were still around, still doing their thing. They're still
They
at
are-
it?
They are absolutely still at it. And they're, so the Light Forge is part of the reason my podcasts and the podcast that I do with Schwal exists. Is as I wanted to learn to get better at playing the arena, I was like, oh, the Light Forge podcast. And I downloaded it and I started listening and I felt like I had walked into an advanced calculus class
Oh my gosh.
where I'm like, I see
Right.
numbers on the board, but I have no clue what any of this means. And I tried to stick with it for quite a while, and it was really difficult at first because there was kind of no onboarding or no ramp up. That the Light Forge is great, what they do is amazing, but they also assume a lot of pre-existing knowledge of their
beginner
listeners.
course that just like eases you into the mechanics and the stuff. It's just like, you know it already, right? And just like deep dives you in.
Exactly. And that's why when looking at the podcast space, it was like, you know what? I can do this of what are the basics you need to know. So hopefully you get comfortable enough to be playing in Arena, start noticing what's going on, start learning some of the more advanced skills, and then be able to do things like listen to the Lightforge for that like super advanced graduate level work. I still don't understand everything they talk about, but I have a much better understanding and feeling, and it's much easier for me to follow. If that makes sense.
Okay,
makes
so
sense.
tell me if I'm wrong, but if I remember correctly, they used to have a website where they would tell you what cards to pick.
I believe they still have that they still
Arena?
have.
You'd like
There
put in
was-
the 3 cards that you were optioned, and they'd give you like a percentage number underneath them that was like how powerful they were and which ones you should pick out of the 3.
Yes. Hearth Arena did something similar to that, where they also offered information about synergies and what you were drafting, and it was based on the Lightforge tier list. That is what they do. I believe there was a split at some point, and that
There was.
that I don't think that they have the Lightforge. The Lightforge tier list still exists at lightforge.com. You can still go and see the tier list. And they actually have it set up where you can see what cards are in what buckets and in what half buckets, which is amazing. There's a wealth of data there to poke through. I think they also do have a partnership with either a kind of add-on application or something like that, where people are pulling data from the tier list into that. I've looked at some of the apps out there that will then tell you that, well, this card is a 120 on the tier list. This card's a 5. The 120 is a better pick. Kind of.
Yeah.
thing.
I always
There's
used
that
to
big of a
love like
discrepancy.
choosing the card that I would choose and then going on their list and seeing which one they would have chosen and being like, oh, okay, that's interesting.
And a lot of that for Arena goes back to Grant's question earlier of, if you're a newer arena player, what can you do to get better? And it's to start learning to do some things like card evaluation. There are absolutely a bunch of cards that get played in Arena and picked all the time that never see play in Constructed ever.
Yes.
Just
yes.
they're considered trash in Constructed, but in the Arena they're great. So I would tell again that first person, learn the basics of card evaluation, and going back to from Magic the Gathering, the kind of vanilla test, where if you're going to put a minion on the board and you're going to pick it for your deck, what's the mana cost? If the mana cost is 2, double that and add 1. So you now have 5. You want to see a total of 5 stats for that minion. So a 2/3 minion or a 3/2 minion for 2 mana is perfectly okay. If you have stats better than that, or if you have another feature on top of that, like Taunt or Divine Shield, that's a great pick for the Arena. It's something that you can put on the board. It's going to be hard to remove. It's what you want. Arena has very much become a game of, you need to get minions on the board early, you need to keep your opponent off the board, and you need to, and Schwal's been very clear, make sure that I say this very clearly, play for tempo. Play for tempo. That's right now, especially with the way the meta is right now in the Arena, playing for tempo is the way that you're going to win more.
Because once you get ahead, it's very difficult for the other person to like throw a move where they wipe your board and put their own stuff and like turn it all around. I think that's the really cool thing about Arena is that, like you said, these cards that are trash in Standard, they work because there's no guarantee your opponent has any removal at all in their deck. Depending on what class they have, they could have a very small pool to pick from to begin with, and then if they weren't even offered those, or if they didn't even choose them, once you have something that sticks, it could do a lot of damage because there's not a guarantee there's a hex out there or a silence or anything to deal with it. So these cards suddenly become super powerful.
Yeah, it's not like in a constructed match where it's like, okay, I clued into mage. Oh, right now in standard, that's probably cyclone mage. I'm going to see a bunch of spells played, and they're going to have some giants, and they're going to have some conjurers callings, and this is what I need to be aware of. In arena, you start to learn that a little bit, that okay, I'm against a hunter. Well, right now in this new meta, they're going to have access to quite a few mechs, so I need to be aware of that. They don't have a lot of AoE, but they have some secrets. What secrets might be commonly drafted right now based on what's available? That kind of thing. You learn it by a process of elimination, and the more you play, the more you see it.
Yeah.
And then the
Yeah, I was
matchmaking
thinking-
is still against the exact same number of stars and wins and losses that you have? Or not stars?
Yeah.
Just
Yeah,
wins and losses.
so your very first match, you will be paired against someone else that it is their very first match. If you win, you have you have a record of 1-0. You'll be paired against someone else that's 1-0. If you lose, then and now you're at 1-1, you'll be paired against someone else that's 1-1. Is the how it usually breaks down. There's a little bit of wiggle room, especially once you get to higher ranks. And I think, Grant, you've had this experience yourself, that once you get beyond, again, remember, most runs end with 2 wins or less. Once you start getting, and you're at wins 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, you're getting up in these numbers. The decks you're seeing are incredibly powerful. There's times where you're like, that's a constructed deck. How did they get a constructed deck in Arena? And it's because they also have that incredibly good record because they've drafted this amazingly powerful deck. So when you're going for that Lightforge key, if you're really going for that 12th win, your deck is super powerful and you felt it. But the deck you're playing against, guess what? Also super powerful.
Yeah, would you say that, like, let's assume for a second that when you're up in that higher level, you can probably safely assume that the person playing it is a good player, because if what I've read from Ed Wickta and Merps is correct, like, you can have a fantastic deck, but if your gameplay isn't good, you don't climb.
Yeah.
So you can assume they're a good player. You can assume their deck is powerful. So is it safe to say that in a lot of ways it really comes down to who draws better?
Sometimes it's who draws better. Sometimes it's the makeup of the deck and the matchup. Like right now, with Paladin being so strong and Druid being so strong, I would expect to see those decks in the upper ranks. However, Paladin has a faster start. Druid does not necessarily have as much board clear, and if that Druid didn't take at least one swipe, they're probably going to lose to that Paladin just because they don't have the ability to deal with the Paladin board.
They can't swing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that hero power.
So,
yeah,
one of the things I was thinking about, like, card selections and how to understand value, because it seemed one of the things that's a common thing you hear in Arena is card value, card value, card value, card value. I've noticed some trends that people that I tend to lose to are really good at being stingy with their resources. One, like, they don't just dump their hand ever. Like, a person who's dumping their hand, just putting a bunch of stuff on the board, is probably somebody you're going to beat if you're not doing the same thing. Secondly, when the reason they're doing that is because their cards actually don't have a lot of value. So what I'm trying to say is, if, let's say, I don't know a ton about the game, I think an easy trick that I've learned that's been sort of successful, like, let's say you don't have time to draft a deck and then scroll through, Lightforge or wherever, any Arena tier list. I found that typically minions that are reasonably statted for their mana cost, like typically where their butt is bigger than their attack, are usually safer bets because they can take some hits. They're more durable, I guess you could say. What do you think of that? Is that off base, or is there some truth in that
no,
notion?
There's some truth in that, especially right now at the 2-drop slot. A 2-mana 3/2 has the ability to be removed pretty easily, where a 2-mana 2/3 doesn't right now. So yeah, and this goes back to kind of the constructed mindset too, is there's times you're playing constructed and you will have a card and you feel like you need to hold on to it to get the value out of it. That, this card gains Divine Shield and Taunt if I have this other thing. So even though I can play it right now, I'm going to hold on to it because I want those added features. In Arena, if you don't play that card, you're giving away your board probably, especially in the early game. Right now, the meta is so fast. If you don't have the ability to drop something, ideally on turn 1, but definitely by turn 2, if you don't have anything on the board by the end of your turn 2, you've probably already lost.
Right.
That's why I feel like when I draft in an arena deck, and I'm definitely not a 5-run arena player, I go heavy on the low-cost minions.
Right now in this meta, that's definitely the way to go. I would say if you have, 6 to 8, 2-drops would be a real ideal kind of situation. And then some 3s, some 4s. The last run I had that I did fairly decently with was, I think, a 6 or 7. I can't remember. But it topped out at, I think, 5 drops, and I had, I think, 1 8-drop, and nothing higher than that. And it was about getting on board and keeping the opponent off and getting in chip damage, and then having such dominant control that you can get to the point where, like, okay, great, you dropped that. I don't care. I'm going to ignore it, and I'm just going to go and punch you in the face because you have a bunch of stuff. You can trade off one of my minions next turn. Okay, or you can hit me in the face and I'm not in danger of dying. That's fine. I'll just ignore you.
Yeah.
So always choose removal?
That was my next question.
Removal is
AoE.
tricky. Removal in AoE is tricky because when we think about removal and constructed, it's like, okay, we're going to be able to remove their board and it gets rid of their threats and it kills their game plan and they have to start over. And we probably don't even have anything behind that. But in the arena, great, I flame strike your board. Your board is empty. But now I don't have anything on the board. I've just given you initiative. And now my opponent's going to play something out on turn 7 or turn 8, and then they drop something big. And if I don't have a way to deal with it, well, great. Now I'm taking 8 to the face for how many turns until I have an answer. So AoE has its place. It's definitely helpful. It can swing boards, but if you can't develop something into it afterwards, it's kind of more stalling the inevitable than saving you.
Flame Strike is for when they have like one card in their hand.
Yeah.
And they're not a warlock.
If you're in a top deck war with someone and they've got, like Grant's example, you have that person that has taken and played out their hand and it's probably not good, but they're just throwing a bunch of stuff on board and they're almost out of cards. If you can AoE clear that board, you probably won. But if they've got 5 or 6 cards in hand, maybe not.
Spending an entire turn to just remove it and then not do anything is not great for you.
Exactly. Especially because you're at a later turn in the game. You're at turns 7, 8, or more, that the next thing they're going to do, if they have it, they're going to drop a big bomb out of their deck. And now you're going, great. Instead of these little minions I have to deal with now, unless I happen to have some hard removal or a hex or something to deal with that, now I'm in just as bad, if not worse of a position than I was.
Yeah. I've really been kind of studying, gameplay in Arena in terms of that notion of tempo, and it's really fascinating how you can be making tempo mistakes just, and I'm going to say, like, in a very natural normative sense. You don't realize you're making a tempo mistake and you're like, aha, I'm going to pick 3 flame strikes in my deck, and it's like you've already made a tempo mistake before you even played a game. Because, like what you said, because what they're going to do is you cleared my board on turn 7. Well, let's see, what big giant minion do I have on turn 8 that you're not going to be able to clear next? Like what's that minion that can keep punching minions as long as it kills it? It's
That's
it's a 312.
Batterhead.
Batterhead. A Batterhead in
That and my
Arena.
shaman.
It's not a card you ever see it in Constructed, but goodness, Batterhead. You Flame Strike. He puts that down. You got nothing because you better be able to kill that thing on the next turn and then develop your board, or
Yeah.
you can't deal with that card.
Or
know?
you have other cards that have death rattles that leave tokens behind that are super sticky. It's like though that's a great value card that it may not seem like great stats, but it has the ability to stay around and they're still developing a board.
What's the 6/4 that leaves the 4 weird little tokens? It's
Eccentric Scribe.
Eccentric Scribe. Like that was a card that card's trash and Constructed, but it's a top pick if you see it because of the value.
Yeah, and Blizzard finally bucketed that right. That is a premium pick in Arena because of the value.
Right. I played games where I was seeing like multiple of those. I'm like, oh man, because if I don't deal with the 6/4 body, then they're gonna beat me. But then I have all these little tokens that I have to deal with that can nickel and dime me on stuff, and it's just a constant trying to evaluate. Oh, geez, if they play this, then how do I deal with the tokens? Never mind the minion. The tokens are what I'm worried about.
Yeah. Yeah, and is there a way
because
that
a lot
they
of
can
times
buff it or do something else with it afterwards?
Which also is one of the reasons why Paladin and Druid are good, because if a Paladin or Druid is building their deck and they figure, because Eccentric Scribe, if I'm not mistaken, is a common, right?
Might be rare, but yeah, it's
I was gonna say,
it's more likely to get it as a pick. They can buff those tokens. So you left 4 tokens, those tokens have now turned into, they've just been Savage Roared, or they've just been buffed by somebody.
yeah. And
that was
again,
the next question. Like,
oh, go ahead.
how, like in Arena right now, it probably changes, but how likely is it that you're going to have a board full of minions? Or is it kind of like people are playing like 1 minion a turn or 2 minions a turn? Is there something that
How easy
where
is it
you
to
would
go
choose,
wide, you mean?
Yeah, to go wide, to choose a synergy that's like made for buffing multiple minions, something like Savage Roar.
For Druid and Paladin right now, it's extremely common for them to go wide. That's part of the reason they're doing so well, is that Warlock just lost a bunch of AoE in this rotation. Mage still has some, yeah. But yeah, like it's easy. Like right now, I think, what is it? Muster for Battle. One mana summon 2 1/1 Silverhand recruits and equip a weapon on turn 1. That's amazing in Arena right now.
I thought it was 3.
Yeah.
Is it only 2?
No, maybe it is 3. Maybe it is 3.
I think it's 3.
You might be right.
Well, what's the name of the hammer? It's the Lights
Justice.
Yeah, the Lights Justice weapon is actually a top pick in the Paladin list. Because I always pick Paladin if I'm offered it, because I like playing Paladin Arena. But it's a top pick, and you would never, like, a Lights Justice, a 1/3 weapon. So Muster for Battle gives you the tokens and the Lights Justice. Basically, to do whatever you do. You just hang on to that weapon. You just hang on to that weapon and use it as you see fit. Trade, go face, depending on what you need to do. And it's surprising how much more valuable it seems. And even Muster for Battle's always been a good card and Constructed, but because of the value and the tempo you get from playing it, it's crazy.
And then we also have the return of cards like Velen's Chosen is back in the arena now.
Yay! Shout out. That is such a good card.
Yeah. So
what about synergies?
Right now it's more synergy. This is the other difference between Arena and Constructed play. Constructed play is based around synergy. You are building a deck to do something, and all of the cards work together. Thinking about what's in the meta right now, like a Murloc Shaman. Wow, you've got all the Murlocs, and they all do things together. Awesome. You cannot reliably draft synergy in Arena.
Okay.
Like you can in Constructed. Now, synergy does happen. If you're going through your draft and you're in your first few picks and you see that, okay, I've seen a couple good mechs that I've picked, some that are there. Then as You're going on, you recognize, okay, I have these 2 mechs in my deck, and now I get an offer for a magnetic mech. Well, is it something that they would follow each other where it would be easy for me to go ahead and use that as a magnetic buff? So you can kind of build synergy as you go along, but you don't go in going, I'm picking mage and I'm building an elemental deck. Because
Ooh, that's
you might never see an elemental.
Right.
So
Did it work?
synergies do
Did
happen,
it got better?
but
Because they said they were gonna try and like if you pick a mech, if you pick a couple mechs, we'll offer you more mechs.
I
go along
don't
with your
think
mech?
I've seen that happen. But
Okay.
right now, with the fact that we have Goblins versus Gnomes and the Boomsday Project legal in Arena, there are a ton of mechs running around. There's some classes more than others that have that ability. Let me look really quick.
I know that mage had a bunch because back in the day, a mech mage was a thing. Like they have snow chugger, they have blast mage, I think it is.
Goblin Blast Mage, which
Goblin
is
Blast
not
Mage, yeah.
not an actual mech, but synergizes with mechs.
Right.
It's a good
And
tempo
then just
card
like
if
a
you're
lot
on
of
the mechs.
neutral ones, like Mech Warper is neutral and
Yeah, so
Piloted
a lot of the
Shredder.
things that came out of Goblins versus Gnomes are kind of neutral value mechs, and everything that came out of Boomsday is mechs that have synergistic effects with magnetic and things like that. Looking at my data, because I compiled this for a show that we did, I think this last week. There are a total in Arena of 101 mechs available.
Whoa.
Yeah,
a lot of
that is a lot of mechs. So of that, 61 of them are neutral. So more than half the mechs are available to everyone.
But it still matters which buckets they're in, right?
It matters what buckets they're in, because something like Ziliax and Snip Snap are not a great example because they're going to be in legendary buckets anyway, which is separate from all of the other cards. But if it's a more Piloted Shredder's probably bucketed higher. Yeah, that would be a good example, because it sticks around. The other one is Class. So I was kind of curious coming into this of what class would you want if you were drafting mech synergy? And it's actually funny because the class that has the most mechs available to it as class minions is actually Warrior.
I was gonna guess that. It's still the worst.
Warrior has 12. Hunter has 7. Paladin has 5. Then we go, 4, 3, 2. The worst actually is
Rogue.
Druid.
Shaman. Only has 1 mech in its class, and it came out of Goblins versus Gnomes.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting because in a constructed format, mechs tend to work really good. Like we think Mech Hunter. We don't think Mech Warrior in constructed, but and we do think Mech Paladin, but Paladin, especially from the Goblins versus Gnomes cards, it has some really good cards that were just busted. And also TGT, which is also in
is
the
also
arena,
back,
if I'm not mistaken.
yes.
So you're getting a lot of the cards that was when Paladin was in its heyday. Those cards are that back, and they were just good cards by themselves. So it's like, so what if it doesn't have all the mech synergy? Maybe it's kind of 50%. It has all these other really good cards.
And that's exactly the point in Arena. The card is good by itself. It does not rely on having an entire deck built around it.
So that's something you would say that maybe if I'm trying to get better at Arena is, I guess you could say in a homework sort of set, like try to figure out which cards are good cards by themselves. Talk with your friends. Say, hey, I think this card is good. Is this a good card? Why? And they could say, yeah, yes, no, maybe.
Yeah, and that goes back to being able to evaluate a card based on its mana cost, what it does. The other thing that I would say is watch some Arena streamers. Hafu's no longer around, but there's a German streamer, Sun Glitters, and she is amazing. She is probably one of the best arena players out there right now.
Sun glitters?
Sun Glitters, yes.
Huh.
And she has the most charming laugh. It's just like hearing her laugh makes you happy, which is
awesome.
It's kind of
I need to check
musical,
her
right?
out.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
It's kind of a musical kind of laugh, right?
She's there. Hoppa Bear, F2KCC, even every Friday night in America, friend of the show, an all around good guy, Major Death does arena every Friday.
Nice.
Watch these arena streams, interact in chat. Most of the time they're really good about explaining why they picked what they picked. Or you start to recognize, oh, they always seem to pick this card. Well, why? If you're running something like a deck tracker, go ahead and track your games. If you have a game that you felt was really close that maybe you could have won, or even better, a game that you won that you felt pretty good about, post that replay into one of the Discords. Tag me, tag Schwal, tag anyone else in that Discord. There will be someone that will have the time to sit down and look at it and go, okay, this is what you did. This is what I would have done differently and why. There's a lot of analysis that can go on after the fact if you're willing to take the time.
So you
So
feel
you're
like
saying
the play in Arena is very different from Standard?
Yeah. Mainly because, again, standard decks, go look at anything on the tier list, they're all built to very kind of exacting specific things. These cards have been done and tested to work together in a particular way to do a particular thing. And so it's kind of like if you think of it as like a car analogy. In Constructed, you have someone that has handcrafted a Ferrari for you. They've chosen all of the right parts, and they've smoothed out all the lines, and they've gotten rid of any little part that might not work so that they can go fast and do what they want to do. In Arena, it's like I've got a go-kart in my garage, and like I found a fender at the junkyard, and I've got a seat, but it's kind of broken, so I'm just going to use a bucket instead. They'll both drive down the road, and they both might win a race.
Right. Because you're competing against other bucket seat go-karts.
Exactly. So the game has become different in Arena in that it's not based around drafting a deck that has amazing synergy that you're going to be able to do an amazing one-turn kill combo or something like that. I would almost liken it to what I imagine the beginning of Hearthstone to be, where you have some minions, you're putting them on the board, and you're either trying to protect yourself or get rid of theirs, or you're hitting them in the face. You're playing this very board-centric, minion-centric, combat-centric, grind out a game kind of Hearthstone that, frankly, I don't think exists really in the constructed formats anymore.
Sounds really appealing to me.
It's fun. It's fun. It's frustrating. There's times where you're like, I had the board. What happened? And it can be disheartening. We're going to remember all those times where it's like, I drafted a deck and I played and I went 0-3. And I just feel like I wasted my time and my gold. And I hate it.
Right.
You're not going to remember. You're not going to remember your 3-win runs or your 4-win runs all the time. You'll remember that 12-win run you had or that 9-win run that was really good because that was really awesome and it felt great. But even the best streamers out there go 0-3. It happens. They have bad runs. They have bad drafts. It happens. Some of them recognize their draft is bad and they're like, no, I'm just gonna retire this run. I'm not even gonna play it because I know I'm not gonna do good with it, and I'd rather draft again.
Well, I on the Lightforge on Edwicta's site, he said that amongst the best players, only 12% of their games, of the hundreds of games they play, are 12 key.
Oh yeah,
games.
I believe that.
And they're talking like the best players.
Yeah, these are people that do it all the time. I mean, I don't remember if it's Abducta or Merps. I'm not sure which one it is, but like they're constantly in the leaderboards, which means that they are playing a minimum of 30 games a month, and likely even more than that. And if you think about that, you queue in a game of Hearthstone, it can be anywhere between 5 minutes and a warrior mirror of an hour. In arena, you're playing a minimum of 3 games, maximum of what?
14.
Yeah. A maximum of 14 if you go 12-2. That's a lot of time. You're looking at a single run is probably going to take you potentially a couple hours. We don't all have a couple hours every day to play Hearthstone, even though we'd love to.
Yeah, I found that my average run took me at least an hour to 2 hours when I was playing decently and not playing an 0-3 type of deck. 0-3 type of deck, it feels like it's 3 up, 3 down. You're like, geez, I just wasted my gold. You're like you said. Yeah, and it's a time commitment. I noticed that at the beginning of May, I was like, I'm going to play Arena for like 2 weeks solid. And I did a lot. I played a lot of it. And some of it went really good and some of it went really poorly. And I had that gamut of experience where it felt like 0-3. And it felt like once I won past 4, I felt like I'd been sitting on that run for a long time. Because I played 7 games, And then, all right, well, won another one. Won another one. And it's like, how long is this going to go on? The time I hit a 12 key, it took me 2 days to do the run.
I believe it.
Because I played it and I was doing good. And I was like, all right, that was 6. I wonder if I can get 7. And I would take a break. I'd come back. Oh, cool. That was 7. All right. Take a break for a couple minutes. All right. Let's see if I can do it. Oh, got 8, and on we went. And it was just kind of like I had to like shake off the nerves and just kind of think about it. But it took me 2 days. I started it in the afternoon on like a Tuesday and finished it in the evening on a Wednesday. That was 12 games in Arena because I probably played a couple other things. I probably played a constructed game here and there. And it wasn't. And that just felt normal. It felt very organic to play that way. I wasn't just sitting down and crushing it out. So would you say that like it actually takes a lot of stamina to play an arena run like top to bottom and be in the right mindset?
Absolutely, especially as it goes on. I mean, I'll sit down and on a weekend like this weekend, depending on what I have going on, there may be, if I have enough time, I might go through 2, 3 if I have a bad run. But if when you're having a good run, I've always found once you hit like 5 wins, win 6, win 7, trying to get into that hard infinite, the mental energy required for that game because you're facing much better players and much better decks, those games have a lot more tension and a lot more anxiety and stress associated with them, I guess. I almost liken hitting 7 as to when you're facing your boss for Legend for the first time, where you're you have that, you're so focused that it's mentally exhausting. And you do it and then you feel like great.
If you went away for a while, you might forget what your deck is.
There is a little bit of that too. Absolutely.
Because it's not constructed. So if you haven't played your arena in a while, you're going to have to like go over the list and be like, what did I pick again?
Which I think is funny because I got spoiled by the arena when I first started. So when I was first playing the game and I got to whatever level where it's like, you can now play in the arena. Here's a free ticket. Enter the arena. And I was playing on mobile. I knew nothing about synergies, nothing about drafting. I knew zero about this game. And I'm like, okay, that card looks cool. Oh, that looks really strong. And I drafted a deck and I played and I went 6 wins. The very first time I played Arena, and I'm like, this is great. Like, I get a pack and gold. Like, I should do this again. And then, like, the next 4 times I played, it was like 0-3, 1-3. And I'm like, this is horrible. I hate this.
There has to be something about that because I played on my husband's brand new account and went 11 the very first time I played on his account.
Maybe Blizzard's tweaking a little dial there somewhere.
Yeah, I think that
That's
the people
crazy.
you go up against as a brand new player are other brand new players.
I don't know if there's an MMR ranking that's also noticed by Blizzard when they're doing Arena for the matching. Nothing official anyway, but it wouldn't surprise me.
They have to. I mean,
I've
they
never
have
been
to.
able to get that high again. Like, that's as close as I've ever come. It was 11 at one time.
Yeah.
So I'm convinced.
Yeah. I have reason to believe that I think that's actually true. And it's probably like anything else, like, oh, no, wait, you've checked all these little algorithm boxes that tells us you are not just a brand new 10-year-old kid playing Hearthstone. You're a seasoned vet.
Yeah.
Now we throw you in with the sharks.
If picks X cards in X buckets consistently, this is Smurf account.
I think it just stretches such different muscles.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
absolutely.
Arena from standard.
That's a great way to kind of think about it.
And so it can teach you a lot about deck building. It can teach you a lot about tempo. It can teach you a lot about valuing cards. Like, I love listening to the pros talk about cards as they come out and how the way that they value them is completely different from how I evaluate them. And arenas are really good for that. But it is so different that you can't take skills from one and really take it to the other.
The basic skills do transfer between them. And I think that, you know, if you're a really good constructed player, you have the basic skills needed to play Arena. You just need to learn how to use those skills in a slightly new way. You have the tools, you just need to use them a little bit differently. And vice versa. I mean, you know, if you're a great Arena player, if you wanted to tackle and really get into standard and climbing the ladder, you would need to then go find the decks and start playing them and learning how they work. And you'll go, oh, okay. Instead of just playing this minion because it's lit up and I need to get the board, that there's a different plan here. You know, I was playing Servala one-turn kill Holy Wrath Paladin this week in Standard. And, you know, there's minions there that great, I have that in my opening hand after my mulligan. I have to hold that until the end of the game. You don't have that in Arena.
Right.
You have it, it's lit up, you play it.
Within reason, yes.
Yeah.
Well, you know, it's interesting that you said that, like, knowing the matchups and stuff, and that's something that I forget about. Like, you know, when a new standard meta arrives, I automatically go in with the mindset, like, well, for example, they just dropped these buffs, and I haven't played a tremendous amount on standard ladder, but I went in with the mindset of like, well, okay, I'm gonna have to just kind of learn new decks. I'm just gonna have to understand what's out there, because now there's new stuff that's good that hasn't really ever been good before. Or hasn't shown itself up shown up in the meta for years. So I'm just going to learn that and figure out what the matchups are, and we'll be good. In Arena, I've found that you have to be willing to use the same mindset with what are the good 2-drops? What are the good 3-drops? And just kind of decide that it's okay to learn those cards by memory. It's like, so, okay, what would be the best thing he could play on turn 3 right now? What could he have? Not that they have it, but you have to kind of have an idea so that you can make the most informed play, giving a much more random array of things. But that it's the same muscles, like you said, you're just exercising them differently. Memory muscles, learning like what I can reasonably expect, but you just memorize it more from an array of like, this is the choice of the 2-drops that would be the ones I could figure a good player to see. And if they don't drop it, then good, I'm going to smoke you because you don't have the best cards, you know?
Yeah, do you play around removal, or do you just kind of hope and pray and assume they don't have it?
If we talked about this recently, if you have a dominant control of the board, and say you're going against Mage, and you're going into turn 7, maybe not playing into removal if they have it. Maybe you don't want to drop another minion, but if you're behind on board, or you're probably losing anyway, you play your cards out and you hope they don't have it. And if they do, they do. But also thinking about what Grant just said, it's kind of like when you were first learning Hearthstone, and it's hard to go back and think about those basic skills. I remember I had taken notes at one point when I was learning the game and really trying to get into it of, okay, at 4 mana, Mage has a fireball, and 7 mana is, Flame Strike, and you've got Blizzard and this, because I would get wrecked by them playing the game because I just didn't know where they were. It's like I knew that they were cards, but I hadn't yet memorized that, okay, that happens from 6 mana and beyond, that's available. Mm-hmm. It becomes the same thing in Arena, is that you start to recognize, okay, back, my opponent is a mage. Mage has these clears right now. Mage could have, I joke that, always play around Pyroblast if there's a mage. I just assume if there's a mage in Arena that, okay, I'm already from turn 1, I'm at 20 health. Like, just because it happens. And for as many times as I've been killed by a Pyroblast in Arena, I've killed people with Pyroblast in the Arena.
Or multiple Pyroblasts.
Ooh, gross.
Yeah.
I'm sorry I've done that to people.
Well, I was just thinking back when I actually went 12 one time. Like, I remember that I had 3 Spike Ridge Steeds in my deck.
Ooh.
And it's like, okay, Spike Ridge Steed number 1, can you deal with that? No? All right, Spike Ridge Steed number 2, can you deal with that? No? Spike Ridge Steed. But the thing the whole time is I'm developing my board where they're trying to punch through 12 health.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean? And it made some wins just ridiculously easy because, everybody would pick Spike Ridge Steed. They knew it, but if you were offered 3 of them, you took it because it was just a card you picked. You just knew that's what you wanted to play on 6. Man, 6, boom, Spike Ridge Steed, because you can't punch through that unless you can silence it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know what a fun one I like that's probably not good is Cavaldir Raider.
Which one is that?
It works with Inspire. It gets +2/+2 every time you use Inspire.
I saw that today, actually.
It's not a bad card. It's tiered pretty well. It's in the middle,
Did you beat me in Arena today?
No, I would have been talking to you the whole time if I was playing.
No, I'm talking to
No, Steven, no.
No, because...
So I was like, I played
this is one of those other newbie mistakes that I made. So I found Hearthstone. I started playing it. I got excited. I'm enjoying it. I bought my welcome bundle and I was playing through, and I've been playing for a while, and I started to find some podcasts and started listening and learning a little bit. And the first expansion that I could get for pre-order came up, which was Journey to Ungoro. So I was all excited, and I bought my pre-order, and I got my packs, and I'm playing through a little bit, and then I'm start getting involved in Discord and the communities and talking to people, and everyone plays in NA, and my account is in Asia.
No.
Yes. But at that point, I was already invested. I had already put money into it. So yes, I am an Asia main because, I live here.
So it could not have possibly been you. I see.
Was not me. I'm sorry. I do have a free to play NA account that I use to spectate people and to kind of co-ladder or co-arena with them, where we would do something like we're doing now, where it's like, hey, great, I'll go ahead and spectate you, and we'll talk through plays, and we'll just hang out. And that's some of the best times I've had playing Hearthstone have been just visiting with friends and playing the arena or playing constructed or doing just stupid things playing against each other. I had one time I was playing with a buddy mid game, if you've ever run into him.
Yes.
Yeah, I know mid game.
We had him on the show.
Mid game was so nice. He coached me in how to play mid-range hunter to get to 10 for the first time. yeah. So like I love him to death. And there was one day that we got on, and I was spectating him, and he's like, let's have some fun. And we built decks for a friendly challenge to see how big can we get a Cthulhu. and like that, like we built it and like no, we think we need to do this to get it higher, and we played it against each other. It was 2 hours of complete nonsense, but it was so much fun. So I do that on NA, and the users that are on Asia, they're great too. But that's again another way to play. If you're playing Arena and you're frustrated or you don't know what's going on, post a replay, reach out to someone and be like, hey, can you come watch me? Can you come spectate and watch me play a game? And with the joys of things like Discord, we can be on a voice call for free and talk to each other. And it's kind of like coaching, but I don't like to call it coaching because that implies money's involved.
I hear you. That's the cool thing about Arena. You don't have to have a card collection.
No,
like it does take some gold, but
So, and actually, like Schwal built almost all of his collection by playing Arena. He's played Arena for a long time. He plays so many runs, and like I think now he might do a pre-order or he'll do some packs with gold and then grind Arena for the rest of what he needs. And doing that also gives you a chance to see and play with cards that you don't own, which is really kind of cool, especially if you're new.
Especially if you came in after GVG and like all of this stuff is stuff you might not ever get because you're not playing Wild.
Yeah.
Then you have an idea of like all of these old cards from the old expansions. Yeah. That's really cool.
Yeah. Well, flavor-wise, GVG is my favorite expansion ever.
Oh, yeah.
In terms of just the whimsy of like the crazy goblins and the crazy mechs and the gnomes and stuff. Like that's what like sunk its teeth into me and has never quite left it. It left its mark there permanently for me.
For me, it's right up there with Ungoro. Like GVG and Ungoro are right up there.
Yeah, probably some of the most powerful sets ever released.
Yep.
Yeah.
What makes them good for Arena? Because like single powerful cards is perfect for Arena.
And that's the thing that they've been doing recently with Arena is it's only a fairly recent thing. They've only done there now. Correct me if I'm wrong, their second rotation where they've decided, all right, we're gonna we're gonna mix and match different sets to create just different metas, so that you don't get too stale. And because there's people out there that are grinding Arena as much as some of us grind ladder. And I really like it. Like that's one of the reasons I think I've been playing more Arena is just it's not just the current standard sets. It's some sets from Wild, some sets from Standard, and something in between we call Classic and Basic. That I just really like. It's like, oh yeah, GVG and TGT. I'm down with that. I'll play some Arena just to play with those cards. In a setting that I'm not used to playing them in.
Oh, absolutely. And they have done it. This is the second Arena season, and they're doing this right now if they stay on schedule every 2 months. So the next, it's changing frequently. It just changed. The next one will happen at the release of the new expansion, whatever that is. And then 2 months after that, we'll get a change again. And then 2 months after that, our new expansion again.
That's so great because, I mean, before Wild existed, Arena players were the second-class citizens that complained that Blizzard didn't listen to them and didn't care about their format, and too much time and effort was put into balancing Standard, and Arena players were like, this hasn't changed since launch. So now that they're putting this time and effort into it, that's really cool. Yeah,
and I mean, right now it's been interesting. I talked about how this is kind of the low-hanging fruit that as soon as they said we're going to mix it up, everyone went, oh, GVG and Boomsday, put all the mechs together, let's go. That was the so I'm curious to see what happens as they continue to kind of mix things together. I'd personally love to see some things where we go, okay, great, we're going to have the newest set, Classic, Basic, and all of the adventures. Like, let's see what happens. That would be really interesting.
Because you need enough cards, right? Because there's less cards in the adventures than there are in the expansions.
Yeah, Schwal is desperate for a value-heavy control meta where it's not he feels sometimes, and rightfully so, that some Arena games can be determined by turn 2, 3, or 4.
Yeah,
and he wants something
if you don't
where
maintain pace, you never catch up.
And he really, I think, wants a feeling of a game where you were battling through the whole thing and you win because you were able to drop something like a Ysera and have it stick for a couple turns. That it's just that really kind of slow, grindy battle, which would also be fun. And I have no problem with either because, again, if you don't like what's happening in the arena right now, in 2 months it's going to change.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you feel that meta could
that's one of the things I like
exist?
about it.
Or that like kind of the tempo minion battle is what Arena is always going to be?
I think it could exist, but it's still going to be tempo based, but it's going to have the right mix and the right balance within classes where it's maybe a slower start where your early 1, 2, and 3 drops don't matter, but 4, 5, and 6 really start to matter, leading to kind of more late game play than early game play.
So, like, if they very carefully curated which adventures or expansions they were going to use in the next arena set, they could maybe force that to happen with an idea of like knowing that that's possible for it to happen. But the question is, how much are basic and classic cards still used in a ton of arena decks? Like, how much are they really powerful pieces of the buckets?
they're used, and I think in some classes, more than others. We've been talking a lot about Mage today because Mage has amazing classic and basic cards.
Yeah. And if they don't take basic and classic out of arena, then part of it is never going to change.
See, and I would hope that maybe they do. I would hope maybe they go, okay, we're going to have a Year of the Mammoth rotation where it's everything from Year of the Mammoth plus the new set, nothing in classic or basic. Why not? I mean, they could. It would be interesting.
Yeah. Well, that's an interesting point. I never really thought about them just kind of taking those out because Arena is kind of eclectic as it is. Like, they always say, well, we want to keep the classic and basic. So, there's those friendly, familiar cards that everybody knows. It's like, yeah, but in Arena, you don't know what to expect anyways.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot. I'm not going to say random, but it's not like a constructed game. And people playing Arena, they have time to consider the picks based on value, not familiarity.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, I kind of wonder why they haven't done it sooner. And I don't think it'll affect the community, especially the Arena community, adversely at all. They'd probably be like, all right, we're done with this for a while. Let's see what we can do now.
And even if it's not good, I'd love to see that just as an experiment. Because if, for example, they did that and they said, okay, we're not going to have the classic set for the next 2 months, and what happens in the arena is really interesting, the data they get, that might be enough for them to go, you know what, maybe this classic set doesn't need to be evergreen. Maybe it's time that we do retire the classic set and rebuild it. It's a testing
Arena's a
ground.
safe place to test that and be like, can we actually rotate that out of standard?
Mm-hmm.
Is that okay?
Just like there was the testing after BlizzCon 2 years ago where they announced, oh, hey, there's going to be these cards that are going to be arena only.
Yep.
They could do something like that again. They have more... There's more flexibility for them, I believe, within being able to manipulate what's happening in the arena for 2 months at a time than messing with the entire constructed ecosystem.
How well did that go over, by the way? Like, that was such a short-lived thing. Did that impact the meta a lot? Was it a fun experience, or was it just kind of a flash in the pan and no one really noticed?
I think it was a flash in the pan. It happened and it went away, and it came and went so quickly that it didn't have the impact we would have expected based on what was announced at BlizzCon.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Well, we are now running at about an hour and a half, a little over.
I feel like
excellent,
I could keep
excellent
talking
discussion.
for another 45 minutes.
Stephen, before we start wrapping up the show, is there any points you wanted to talk about that we kind of may have missed that you like? I want to make sure we want to talk about this or say this before we start closing out the show.
Let me see. Play for tempo. Schwal will remind you, play for tempo. If you're not having the success that you want to have in Arena, don't give up. Reach out to me. Reach out to the Discord communities. Listen to podcasts. Watch streamers. you'll start to learn, and those skills will get better over time. I know it can be frustrating and disheartening, to have a really bad run. That feels bad, but it happens to everyone, even to the best streamers. It happens. So basically, like my advice is, don't give up, keep playing, and if you want help, ask for it. Post a replay, watch people, and just keep going. It's a shame to leave an entire portion of this game that we love on the table just because you feel like you're not good at it, and you'll never become good if you don't keep playing.
It's true. Got to try to succeed. Ed Wicked and Merp say your ratio of games played to games watched should be 3-1. Play 3 games to every game you watch on stream.
Or watch 3 games to every one game. Which way does it go? Which way does the ratio go?
Play 3 games. Play 3 games. Watch 1. Play 3 games. Watch 1. Because they say you get good by. They would argue you get good by playing, and I think there's a lot of truth to that. I've noticed that by playing, even if I don't know what all the best picks are, I remember I saw this card a lot. This card felt really powerful when I went up against, and I couldn't do anything about it, or this card was something I needed to take note of. I was like, I see that, boom, I'm picking that. Like Shovel Fist. What's that card? It's the 9/9 that has Rush.
Yeah.
That card's awesome. You never play it in constructive, but if you have a good board and you can drop a Shovel Fist behind it and just clear a big fatty and still keep your board and go face with it, you're winning. You know what I mean? But I didn't realize that until I played a couple games and had it done to me. And then I realized that it was a pretty common pick and that I could expect probably 2 or 3 of them in a match. And it changed how I played the game,
Yeah, you
so
learned
even if
that,
you're losing games, if you're noticing what you're losing to, then it can be a
Mm-hmm.
very valuable experience, and then you can use that to go into your next draft.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, when you see someone drop something and you're like, okay, that's bad, and they do something the next turn, and you go, oh, that's not good, and I'm definitely losing. And then the next time you draft, you go, oh, I remember how that card works. Yeah.
Now I get to
Force
choose
tank.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I did have one question I wanted to ask before. Mamaz used to say that when you get a chance to pick fatty minions, as he calls them, like higher statted minions, that you take them. How true is that anymore, considering the earlier game?
I think it's still valuable to have 1 or 2 late game bombs in any given draft. But it depends on what's offered. You might look does it have synergy? If your draft is incredibly low to the ground, where everything is 5 drops or less for some reason, you're probably not going to grab an 8, 9, or 10 mana minion. It's just doesn't fit in, because if you do that, you're not playing out those other minions that you want to get to. You want to have that kind of cycle.
Okay.
They're worth having, but I guess it's kind of contextual based on what the rest of your draft looks like. Right. There's the theory that you can draft an extremely low curve and have kind of an aggro deck, or you can try and draft a really top heavy control deck with AoE and things like that. But once you start drafting that and then you get a 6-drop, now all of a sudden you're moving from those 2 extremes to kind of a more centered mid-range for your overall draft. So if you have a bunch of really low mana cards, you don't want just one big one that's kind of sitting out at the end. Because you're missing everything in the middle to get you there, to give you that survivability.
Yeah, I had a friend who used to be really good at drafting in Magic, where he would go to Friday Night Magic and win. And I was asking him, we were drafting Arena one time, and I was saying, he was like, "No, we need to make sure we get some 2-drops, because we don't have any 2-drops. We need to fill out that part of the curve." And what he was doing is he was trying to build sort of a bell curve in his. If you look when you're drafting, you see it gives you have X amount of 3s, 4s, and he always wanted it to try and look as much of a bell curve as he could make it. That was his style of playing, based on what he was offered. And of course, it didn't always look perfect that way, but it seemed as if he had a healthy amount of 3s, 4s, 5s, and some 6s and 7s as you trail off. that deck was always very strong, and he would go hard infinite quite regularly.
Yeah, and if you can do that in the arena in Hearthstone, you're building a really solid mid-range deck at that point. I tend to, especially with how fast the meta is right now, same general idea, but shove that curve over to the left. You don't want your peaks in 4, 5, and 6. You want your peaks in 2, 3, and 4.
Makes sense.
And that's a really great graphic, like the fact that they have that graph there, and you can very visually see as you're filling up the slots how many 2s you have, how many 3s you have. Is really helpful to kind of glance over there and keep an eye on, oh, that slot's completely empty. So no matter what I'm offered in my next 5 cards, I'm going to need to keep in mind that I might have to choose some that are maybe a little less optimal, because I need to fill in that slot.
Yeah, if you don't have a lot of things in your 1, 2, and 3 slots, or if those are empty, even if you were offered a super premium amazing card, you might need to take a not so good 2-drop because you need to put something on the board.
Yeah.
Right. Got to contest what your opponent plays. I always think of it that way. It's like, all right, I don't really want to play this card, but I have to contest what they're playing. I have to give an answer of some kind rather than just let them go willy-nilly. Run me over. I actually make it my habit personally that every time I'm offered a card, I check my graph to see what I'm looking like, because I notice that if I don't check it every time as a habit, then I'll accidentally pick too many 4-drops or too many 5-drops or something. So, oh, this 5-drop's great. Oh, this one's really good on the tier list. The next thing I know, I have 6 5-drops. I'm like, oh no, I'm not going to win now because I'm never going to get to play those 5-drops. You know,
And
they're
then,
going to just
like,
run
if
me
you
over.
start choosing too late, you're forced to pick the 3s instead of going, okay, at this point, I'm going to pick the 3. So later, I'm not forced to pick a 3 that I don't want to pick.
Yeah,
Sure.
I'd much rather draft a 2 or 3 drop that I want early in the run than being late in the run and going, oh, well, it has 2 mana and it's a horrible minion, but I'm going to take it anyway.
Yeah.
Because I
Right.
need it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Cool.
So the
Well,
last thing I just want to like really quickly touch on is the new Masters bundle. There's a
Yay.
Masters bundle. It supports
$20.
Hearthstone esports. It's $19.99 American, a lot more than that Canadian. 10 Rise of Shadows packs, 10 Rostacon's Rumble, and a new card back, and a new Shaman hero portrait, the Thunder King. Which, yes, I will do a lore episode on him. Don't worry. It's going to be a thick and beefy one because he's old. Like, he's back in the days of the Titans, old school guy.
Oh, wow.
And bad, by the way. He's an evil guy. He's not good. That's why he came along with the bad guys expansion, because King of Thunder is not a good guy.
I heard someone mention that even his greeting emote sounds a little BM-y, so maybe that might be there too.
I like it.
Is this our first Shaman?
No, we
portrait?
had King Rastakhan.
No. Rastakhan,
Morgul.
There's a lot of
Oh,
shaman.
you're right.
Shaman's approaching levels of mage in its amount of hero portraits. In fact, I think
Rastakhan,
that
Morgul,
they're now in
Thunder
the 4 hero portrait class. So you have Thrall, and then Morgul came out, and then Rastakhan, and now we have Thunder King. So
I'd be really interested to know how they pick these, because that's still no women shaman and still no men rogues.
yeah,
So
Yeah,
it's kind of like,
I'm kind of tired of explaining to my son why I always pick a girl, because I'm a rogue main. Like, Daddy, why do you always pick a girl? Like,
Because she has glowy daggers and she's awesome. That's why.
that's kind of honestly, it's almost verbatim. I was like, dude, glowing green knives, duh.
because
It's the
you
coolest.
know what the best hero portrait for rogue would be as a man. It would be Edwin Van Cleef.
Edwin Van Cleef's my spirit animal.
Yeah,
So-
like I'm trying to think of a better one for rogue. And you know who is also in rogue, I believe, is the Dragon Prince. Was he a neutral card?
Rathion.
Yeah, Rathion. He would be a good.
Yeah, he
rogue,
was a neutral card in. Gosh, I want to say it was from. Oh, now I can't remember.
TGT,
He wasn't
maybe?
good though.
No, it was like keep
I think it was
drawing a
Mean
card
Streets. I
until
think it
you
was
draw
Mean
one that's
Streets.
not a dragon. It was horrible. He had taunt, and that was like about
It
it.
was
But
Mean Streets.
Rathian would be good as a hero portrait for rogue as well if they didn't want to go in the Edwin Van Cleef way. But yeah, I mean,
I want an
Van Cleef
Edwin
is-
portrait.
Yeah,
I'd pay for an Edwin portrait.
think of his emotes.
Oh, that's what I want more than anything.
That would just be so good.
Yeah. So cool. Well, StevenSensei, thank you so much for giving your time and your energy to Hearthstone and namely to our show tonight. It's been such an enjoyable conversation, just kind of talking Arena and the mindset that it takes to approach success in that format.
Oh, thank you very much. It's been a blast. I appreciate everything you guys do, and happy I could come and hang out with you guys today.
Well, we'll get you. I would like to have you back again sometime, and probably especially every time there's a new rotation. It's like, hey, let's talk about it. Like, what's good, what's bad, what can we expect? Like, I really liked knowing that decks are curving out early. That was really useful. And so, where can people find you if they want to get in touch with you and follow your show and whatnot?
So the show is Arena Sensei, which you can find pretty much anywhere podcasts are available. You can follow my Twitch or my Twitter at StevenSenseiHS. I don't stream on Twitch, even though I probably should and would like to. And then, of course, I'm in pretty much every major podcast Hearthstone Discord you can imagine. So at StevenSensei, and ping me and I shall appear. And you can, if you want to join the quiet yet somewhat helpful Arena Sensei Discord, that's at discord.me/Arena Sensei.
Cool beans. Eve, where can people find you?
Yeah, for a long time we've had, whether you're a competitive player, an arena specialist, or a deck building visionary in our opening line, and I feel like we've kind of neglected that part of Hearthstone. So I'm really happy we got you on the show and we were able to talk a lot about arena and learn a lot about arenas. So I'm super happy about this episode. You can find me on Twitter at Lore Master Eve. I almost said Finnavar.
FINNOVAR.
One more R, but man, that was really close. I'm so proud of you. Good job. BattleNet, Lore
Nice.
Master Eve, with only one E. Well, no, wait. Okay, so Lore Master, LOREMASTR, because I couldn't fit in that
There you
extra E because it was too long of a name, and then Eve, 1974. I'm going to be working on another Knights of Lore episode because there's like a ton more of Destiny lore that just came down the pipe, which is making me super excited and passionate. So probably going to do another one of those episodes, but also need to work on the Thunder King now. So yeah, a lot of work.
The Thunder King.
The
Cool.
Thunder
If you want to find me, you can find me on the Twitter sphere at WatchmanHS. Battle tag is Watchman #1140. Love to share quests, spectate games, all that stuff's all good. I find myself wanting to spend more time spectating and helping people. That's where I'm finding more joy in the game as opposed to just grinding. Legend doesn't feel quite the same as it used to. When you've done it a few times, I think for some people they just have to do it, and that's their joy. And mine is, I think, just kind of more playing, having fun, getting my rewards, but helping people improve.
You're a
If
teacher
you want to
at
find all
heart,
things,
Grant.
I really am a teacher at heart. But I also take a lot of joy and success of watching people like work hard and then achieve what they set out to accomplish. If you want to find all things and anything Velen's Chosen, head on over to velenschosen.com. We would love any additional support you would want to give out via iTunes reviews, because those are very helpful getting the show in the search queue for when people want to say, I want to get better at Hearthstone. I want to get better at Arena. So they can find us. Head on over to Patreon if you want to throw us a couple bucks a month. It's patreon.com/velenschosen.com. And of course on the website, any of the links to any of the stuff is all there if you can't remember any of it. So StevenSensei, thanks again so much for coming on the show. This was episode 186, and we should probably call it About Dang Time We Do an Arena Show. And so, and in the future, Eve, what should people think about? What's our sign off phrase that people should really remember every time they play Arena?
Not all who wander are lost.
I foresaw this.
Did I miss it?